Giannis Antetokounmpo could be sidelined for weeks after re-injuring his right calf in Friday's loss to Denver. He had the calf wrapped early, left late, saying he could no longer move. Experts said an MRI that could result in a 4 to 6 week absence. The Bucks have lost 5 of their last 6. They sit 11th in the East, and with the trade deadline approaching, questions about Giannis and his health are definitely there. Looking at what he's been able to do over his career, 2-time MVP, NBA champion, one of the most loyal superstars that the league has seen, 13 seasons in Milwaukee. But per reports, conversations between Giannis and the Bucks about his future have recently intensified. So with that, we bring in our Sam Quinn, our John Gonzalez. You guys put together a list of landing spots for Giannis if he is traded. We're going to start with the New York Knicks. Giannis has reportedly viewed New York as a preferred destination before. Do the Knicks actually have the assets and the appetite to make this deal happen? Sam, what's your thoughts?
Well, the star usually gets what he wants, right? The Knicks don't have the most to offer. They don't have their own picks. They traded all of them for Mikal Bridges. I think the breakthrough bit of reporting that we got over the weekend was that the Portland Trailblazers are potentially interested in Mikal Bridges. That's especially relevant because Portland controls 3 future Bucks first-round picks from the Damian Lillard trade a few years ago. There are no more valuable draft picks to any team than their own because those are the picks they can control. If the Bucks can get control of some of their own picks back, they can actually start to rebuild, tank a few years, make some high draft picks. If the Knicks can get some of those Portland picks back to Milwaukee, now we might have a workable framework. The Bucks shouldn't want Mikal Bridges. They shouldn't want Karl Anthony Towns. They should want to get younger. They should want draft picks. This would not be a 2-team trade. We would have to loop in a 3rd team, maybe a 4th to take Karl Anthony Towns. But if there is enough interest in Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, maybe OG Anunoby from other teams, you could cobble together a 3, 4, 5-team package that might make enough sense to get this thing across the finish line.
Yeah, this is the interesting one, right? Because this is where he was rumored to want to go during the offseason. But I think what Sam touched on there is interesting as well, that what you're talking about, in order to get Giannis, because they mortgaged so much of their draft capital in order to secure Mikal Bridges, it would have to be kind of an overhaul of this team that they had just put together and thought, oh, well, we went to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. We have designs on going to the NBA Finals for the first time in even longer. And, oh, wait a minute, maybe we're going to have to unplug Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges in order to bring in Giannis. Now, it's Giannis, so I would certainly advocate on behalf of that. But I think that the Knicks, prior to winning these last 2 games against the Sixers and the Nets, had kind of been in free fall, right? They're in 4th place now. They're 6.5 games behind the Pistons. They trail the Celtics and the Raptors. And, oh, by the way, that defense is not good. They're 17th in defensive rating, right? And part of the problem there is that their 2 best offensive players are 2 of their biggest defensive liabilities in Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. You're not going to move on from Jalen Brunson, but now all of a sudden you're starting to think about, okay, can we move on from Karl Anthony Towns, and could we potentially land Giannis? And I think if there's any chance of them doing it, they should think about it.
If they can get it done, get her done. How about the Miami Heat? You guys liked Miami for this one as well. They've been linked with Giannis for years. Is this finally the moment that we could push to get this happening? Sam, you start.
Yeah, I think the Heat are so interesting here because there is a world in which Giannis goes to the Bucks and says, I only want to play for the Knicks. And that's going to scare off a lot of the other suitors. It's not going to scare off the Miami Heat. The Heat are not afraid to take risks. They're not going to be afraid to trade for somebody because they have that much faith in their ability to get guys to commit. They're such a good recruiting team. You bring Giannis in there, you ideally pair him with Bam Adebayo. You're trading all of your other valuable assets. Tyler Hero, Wisconsin native, going back to the Bucks in that deal. That prized young big man, Khalil Ware, who's got a very, very bright future. He'd go back to the Bucks as well. You're talking about all of your future picks. They already owe 1 to Charlotte, so it gets a little bit tricky. They could do 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round swaps. Go down the roster, your Jaime Jaquez's, your Nikola Jovic's, all of those younger guys who maybe aren't quite, starter, cornerstone of a deal type of guys, but are valuable players nonetheless. You're talking about stacking all of those guys. It might not be a great offer, but it's better than what the Knicks can give. And if that's the bar here, I think Miami has a chance.
What about for the Warriors in Golden State, Sam? Giannis is kind of like the swing that justifies reshaping this kind of end of era for Steph Curry. What do you think about Golden State?
Yeah, the idea here for the Bucks would be, wouldn't you want to short Golden State's future? Stephen Curry is 37. Draymond Green is old as well. And even Giannis, still one of the best players in the NBA, but he's in his 30s. He's had injury problems. His playing style doesn't figure to age especially well. You get Giannis and Curry on the same team. They're going to be very good for a year, for 2 years, maybe 3 years. But if you're talking about trading all of your future picks, the 4 first-round picks, 3 first-round swaps, going all the way out to 2032, now you're talking about some draft picks that, in the late 2020s and the early 2030s are going to be some of the most valuable in the entire NBA. You'd have to be patient, but if the Bucks are looking for an example of ways in which that can work, they only have to look to Portland, who they gave all of their picks to get Damian Lillard. And right now, it looks like Portland's sitting on a gold mine with those picks. So it would take a few years for that trade to really bear fruit. But if the Bucks are willing to be patient, there's a pretty interesting trade to be made there.
Yeah, Giannis to the Warriors is one of the big rumors, one of the things that, NBA fantasy land has been thinking about for a while now, right? What would it look like if you paired him with Steph? And now you have the Jimmy Butler situation with the ACL, and that would help with the salary matching purposes. Maybe you move on from Jonathan Kuminga. That's a nice young player that the Bucks might be able to employ. But kind of what Sam said here, does it work for the Warriors? Because, you figure with Steph and Giannis, they would be monsters together. But Giannis and Draymond would certainly, they'd work on the defensive end, but you'd have serious spacing issues yet again in the same way that you would have spacing issues, with Butler and Kuminga and Draymond as well. So I wonder if it's, the idea of it sounds pretty good, but I wonder if in practice, in execution, if it would work out. And as Sam mentioned, Steph's 37. Time is ticking, right? You want to maximize that window. He's still really good. He made All-NBA last season. He's going to make All-NBA again this season. On paper, adding Giannis would certainly help, but I wonder if in execution it would work long term.
You always wonder, it's like this concept sounds great, but how would it actually play out? How do you think it would actually play out if Giannis ends up with the Houston Rockets? John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is one of those scenarios where can they? Yes, they can pull it off. They've got a lot of assets and a lot of young players. The real question here is, should they, right? Because the Rockets have a ton of draft capital, and they have a lot of really good, young, useful players. Reed Shepherd, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith. Salary matching purposes, you throw in a Fred VanVleet, who's still recovering from an ACL injury. So all of that works, right? Boom, successful trade. But I like this Rockets team. I like where they are. They've been uneven, sure. They've been up and down in the standings. They're 4th in the Western Conference, but they're top 10 in both offense and defense. And they've got 3 killers in KD, Alperen Şengün, and Amen Thompson. If it's up to me, I'm leaving the Rockets alone. Yes, I know it's Giannis. Yes, he's one of the great players in the NBA, not just of his era, but of any era. But I want to see what this Rockets team can become. I want to get at least another postseason out of them before I tinker with this group.
Yeah, John, I completely agree. It's not just a matter of the iffy fit and how good they are right now. The Rockets have the assets to trade for basically anybody. Do you want to fire those bullets now on a guy in his 30s, or do you want to wait a couple of years and see, like, maybe Anthony Edwards gets a little frustrated in Minnesota, or maybe somebody a bit younger somewhere else in the league? You want to keep all of these bullets chambered so that when the right guy becomes available, the guy who fits with the team you actually have, not forces you to rebuild your entire roster, you still have the chips to go get that guy. So I'm sitting out Giannis if I'm Houston, and I am waiting for a younger player, ideally a guard, ideally a shooter.
John, what about the Hawks, sitting right under 500 right now? What do you think about Giannis joining that team?
Yeah, they were one of the teams that was rumored to be interested in the hunt, and then all of a sudden lately that's cooled, partly because they don't want to give up on Jalen Johnson. In theory, if you're the Bucks, that's the number one guy that you'd want in return, right? Well, Jalen Johnson is having a career year. He leveled up last year. This year he's playing even better. He's averaging almost a 23-point triple-double. I can understand why they wouldn't want to move on from him because he's the face of the franchise. The other hiccup here in the Hawks not really being interested is they don't want to give up on, they have the Pelicans unprotected, the better of the Bucks or the Pelicans unprotected 2026 first-round draft pick. So the Hawks all of a sudden went from being, yeah, we'd love to have Giannis too. I don't know if we want to give up those assets, and it makes sense from their perspective.
Totally makes sense there. All right, well, our eyes will all be on Giannis, and you guys got us prepared for what could be. Appreciate you both looking at what he's done once again. 2-time MVP, NBA champ, Finals MVP, one of the most dominant players of this generation. He would instantly elevate any contender, transform a franchise if need be. So whether he stays in Milwaukee or not, his future has become one of those defining questions. We'll see what happens.